Hey, how you doing? Father Brian here. I hope everyone's doing well. I am so excited, and Father Rick is so excited to know that we are going to be having our public masses this weekend. We're having daily public masses starting now, and it's a really exciting time. It's very odd, the feeling of having a congregation again, but at least we have someone to preach to. But if I'm a little rusty at preaching, just bear with me. But you're a little rusty at being at Mass, so I think together we'll figure it out. But it's a very exciting time. We're keeping with the guidelines of what Bishop Rice has given the diocese, as well as our local guidelines for Missouri, for Cape Girardeau, for the county, doing our best to be careful and yet also to be together and celebrate the sacraments. So I want to give you a little rundown today. Father Rick is about to mail out a letter with some instructions about how this is going to go, because it's not going to be exactly back to normal like it always was. It's going to feel a little different. It'll look a little different. We're going to act a little different while we're at Mass, still worshiping God and receiving the Eucharist. Thanks be to God. But just to prepare for that, Father Rick is sending out that letter to all of our parishioners, and I want to make a little video to accompany it to show you what it's going to look like when you come back, okay? And you're probably already used to this idea, and you know some of what's coming. But let's do this, okay? Our Mass, this Sunday, we're going to have our regular Mass times, which is, let's see if I even remember, 5 o'clock on Saturday, 7:30 a.m. on Sunday, 9 a.m., 10:45 a.m., and 3 o'clock on Sunday in Spanish. And in addition to that, we'll also have 4:30 p.m. Saturday in the De Paul Center. That's the gym where all the school games happen. And also in the gym, we'll have 9:15 a.m. and 11 a.m. on Sunday. And the reason we have that overflow is because we're going to have some limited capacity in here, and those are more overflow masses. So again, the regular church masses are 5 p.m., 7:30 a.m., 9 a.m., 10:45 a.m., 3 p.m. in Espanol. And in the De Paul Center, 4:30 p.m., I'm still learning this, 9:15 a.m. and 11 a.m. So pick your Mass. They're all going to look pretty similar, except, of course, 3 of them are in the gym, so we'll see how that goes, but it'll be great. So you're in here on Sunday morning or Saturday, you're in the church, and you walk in, and let's see what is going to go on here, what happens. Okay, first thing you notice is some of the pews are tied off, because we are trying to keep 6 feet of social distancing for everybody. And so if you go into the pew here, you see in the middle here the spot, "Thou shalt not sit here," because we're practicing social distancing. So the way this works is when you come in your pew, you can have a family here and you can have a family here. And so please sit with your family. You can sit with all the people that you live with or that you came together with, but don't just sit with your friends who you don't live with, because that kind of defeats the purpose. But in every pew that's open, we're going to have 2 groups, one there and one there, keeping them at least 6 feet apart. And then these pews, every other pew will be roped off. Please do not sit there. And what that means is that when those pews that are available fill up, that means we have the maximum amount of people we can have at Mass. And I know it's incredible to think about, but some people might get turned away from Mass. That's why we have these overflow Masses right after that, because we just need to keep that social distance. We need to keep a minimum. And, the guidelines, I think, are saying 30% of your seating capacity. And for us in this church, it's about 150 people, and that's what we have counted out here. So when we reach that maximum, we just can't squeeze more people in. You might be turned away. And as unfair as that is, yes, it is true. Well, we have many Masses to have, and we will have room for everybody, I'm confident, with all these Masses this weekend. So please bear with us on that. So you sit in these pews, okay, and we're going to not have any hymnals. You see how all these are empty. Obviously, we don't need many hands touching many pages. And so when you see that, we're going to have a minimum amount of music in the Mass, and you can find that music. It's going to be printed in the bulletin for the week. So on your way in, grab a bulletin, and we will have those hymns there. And please keep your own bulletin. Also, please take your bulletin with you on the way out and take care of it yourself. That would make things a lot easier for us and obviously have less people touching everything. So take a bulletin for each person to sing along with our music, and we'll see how that goes. And then finally, Well, I'll just go into the Mass here. Okay, we'll have some sanitizer available at the entrance of the church and maybe at some of the rows. So please use your sanitizer. That would be very important when you come in so as to purify your hands before touching anything or anybody, and when you leave, so that whatever you might have possibly come in contact with will not go into your car with you, okay? So sanitize your hands. That's why it's there. Sit with your family. And then we highly recommend everyone to wear a mask into church. So come into church wearing your mask and keep it on during the Mass. I said that masks are highly recommended. We didn't say that masks are optional. The bishop did not say that whether you wear a mask or not is really up to you and how you feel. That's not the case. It's highly recommended. It's very important. And so it doesn't mean that we'll kick you out if you're not wearing a mask. You do have the option of not wearing a mask, but please consider how important the mask is for those who may be carrying something, to keep that to themselves, and for those who aren't carrying something so that they don't catch something from their neighbor. It's very important. So please consider strongly if you don't want to wear a mask, if you have a really good reason not to, okay? Masks are highly encouraged. So wear your mask in your pew with you, and we'll go through the Mass a little bit here. We're not going to have any greeting, so don't meet with your friends and shake hands in the pews or outside in the gathering area. If you don't see me or Father Rick or the deacons outside greeting, I know, I'm sorry, it's not like it usually is, but we just can't be doing that right now. So no greeting, keep your hands to yourself, no hugs, no handshakes, okay? I know this is a sound a little bit, just like I've got a lot of reprimands, a lot of restrictions here, but this is kind of how it is. So we go through the Mass. We'll have Mass as usual. We'll have an opening song, and that's going to be, the music will be in your bulletins. We'll have readings, and we're going to keep a minimum of lectors. We won't have any servers. And then we'll have let's see, what happens in Mass? We got the Gospel, we got the homily, we've got the petitions. There's not an offertory, there's also the Creed. There's not an offertory procession. Because we just want to keep the things that are going to be used, especially the elements which will become the Eucharist, keep them up in a place where they're less likely to be able to have a lot of people around them. And we won't be passing around the collection basket, because that's another object touching many hands. But we will have a collection basket here on your way out. So on your way in or on your way out, please feel free to drop something in the basket. As you know, everybody, every family, every individual, every business in the country is really hurting right now for money, and that includes your parish. And so I know so many of us are strapped with money. We have less income and more needs, but that includes us here. So if you haven't been thinking about it, or if you've been neglecting because you can't put money in the basket at Mass, please consider doing so online. We've been given instructions out for Faith Direct, or bring a gift and put it in the basket like that. And so we need your support to keep the programs such as the live Mass and all of our professional videographers and equipment and all that going. And so your gift can help us so much with that, and give us some insurance for the future as well. So thank you so much for your support. As always, I know that it should go unsaid, but it doesn't get said enough. Thank you for all you give to the parish. Anyway, back to Mass. We've had no offertory procession, but we go into the Eucharist and the Eucharistic prayer and all of that, and some music. And when it comes time to communion, you won't receive communion during Mass. I know, big downer. But you will receive communion after Mass, okay? So here's how it works. When we have communion during Mass, just the priest and the deacon will receive communion. And we might do a little prayer. A note on that in a moment. And you will not get up to receive communion. You'll stay kneeling in your pews during communion, okay? And you can, if you want to, you can make an act of spiritual communion like we've been doing. And then we will finish up the Mass and have the final blessing. Now, then the deacon and the priest will go and reverence the altar, and we will genuflect in front. We might not genuflect in front. We'll reverence the altar when Mass is done, but then something different happens. We're going to get ready. We are going to go back to our chair, and I'll take my chasuble off and my microphone off, And then we will go back to the tabernacle, and we will retrieve the Blessed Sacrament from the tabernacle and put it on the altar. And then we'll say, "Behold the Lamb of God. Behold him who takes away the sins of the world. Blessed are those called to the supper of the Lamb." Then we all say, as you know, "Lord, I am not worthy," etc., etc., etc. And so then you get to receive communion. And me and maybe a couple of communion ministers will come down to the front. See this stand here? This is going to have some hand sanitizer on it in case me or the communion minister needs it. And so we will come here, and then is the time for you to receive communion. So everyone can come out of their pews. See these marks of tape? Those are about 6 feet apart. That is for keeping social distancing. So while you're in the communion line, please make sure to keep social distancing and be very careful and prudent. And to go forward and receive communion, and as usual. And when you receive, of course, in the United States, we have 2 ways that we can receive communion, in the hand or on the tongue. And we recommend at this time, the bishop recommends that we receive in the hand. It's a bit more hygienic and less prone to accidents. Everybody is always enabled and allowed to receive on the tongue as well. But if you're going to do so, maybe you should wait until the end of the communion line. And if my hand should come in contact with you in any way, then I have sanitizer there to take care of it, okay? So we know that things will be sanitary. And so when you come forward, you're going to have your mask on. So pull down your mask so that your mouth is uncovered. And, no coughing or sneezing, none of that, okay? And then you'll receive communion, and we'll go back. So everyone's going to the same direction. And you'll go back up the side aisle, I should say. And then you are free to leave because Mass is totally over at that point. You can just walk out in thanksgiving, or you can go back to your pew and pray. The point, though, is that we have less movement because you can go up for communion and you're leaving in the same movement. And so you don't have to get up and move twice. But if you leave, be sure to respect other people and give them space, and don't hang around and lollygag or chat. And if you are staying to pray, of course, you're getting out of the way for the people who need to leave to pray. But just know, if you do stay and pray, that Mass is over. You can get up whenever you want, even though we're still up here. We've already had the final blessing. So that's about it after for Mass, I think. Is there anything else I needed to say? I'm not really sure. But if I missed it, Father Rick's letter will certainly fill in the gaps, and you can always let us know if you have any questions. And the last thing I would say is that, of course, Bishop Rice has given us all a dispensation from the obligation of going to Mass. Going to Mass, receiving communion, these are very, very important parts of being Catholic, very necessary parts of being Catholic. But yet the moral obligation to be at Mass has been lifted for the sake of prudence and caution. And so even though, as Father Rick said in his letter, we are gathering to celebrate as a church and receive the sacraments again, what a joy and what an important thing for Catholics. But yet the reason we're taking these precautions is so that we don't have to have what we just had, which is a shutdown. We want to be careful and follow all of these guidelines and be prudent so that the cases of coronavirus will continue to decline if we all are very careful, and we won't have to have a total lockdown again. Imagine how horrible that would be if it happened again. So in that case, no matter what you think of what's going on or how the world is interpreting this coronavirus, please respect and follow these guidelines, and we're glad we can have you at church. And since we have that dispensation from the obligation, any Catholic is free to choose to remain home and not come to Mass. Maybe you are so excited to receive the Eucharist that you want to come this Sunday, or pick a weekday Mass instead. That would be fine. And maybe you want to say, well, I can't do this every week. Or maybe as a family, you feel that it's not safe. And so you can pick and choose when you wish to come to the liturgy and be part of this. Because we are being told to be cautious. Certainly, anybody who is in particular risk because of autoimmune disorders or anything like that is highly encouraged to avoid these public gatherings, even with all these precautions. And anybody over the age of 65 is likewise cautioned and asked to remain at home. And so with all that, you have the freedom to choose how you and your family will participate in these liturgies that are now open and public. But please, above all, pray for the will of God in these things regarding your life, and follow the guidelines of the professionals and the bishop and our government who have put these into place so that we can be safe and continue to enjoy the sacraments that our church celebrates together, as important as they are. Prudence is what God has asked of us now. So thank you for your time and for watching this long video, and I will see many of you this weekend or in the near future. God bless you. Take care. Bye.